Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Today, I've got an old friend of mine from D Barry, 3 Hour Lee Horton. How are you doing, Lee?
Really well, mate. And you?
Yeah, I'm brilliant, mate. I'm great. All the better for seeing you.
Hey,
Um,
keep talking.
right, so we just do the normal thing where I ask you where you grew up and why you joined the army.
Okay. I was born and bred in Rochdale, Greater Manchester, Lancashire. I was born in Rochdale, but shortly after, my old man was in the Welsh Guards. So I was a pad brat travelling all over the place. So I think we ended up in Berlin. He was there for about 2 years, and then my sister was born. And then I think he got moved from there to Purbright, which ironically is the last posting that I had. And then we were there for another 2 years, and then my mum and dad split up, and then we went back to Manchester. So it was really just from the age of, I would say, 7 up till 13. I was at school and I wasn't at school. I was one of those that would try and Skype with my mates as much as I could, so I didn't really take school all that seriously. And then my granddad had a really kind of stern word with me. I absolutely idolised my granddad. My nan and my granddad pretty much brought me up, so anything my granddad said, I'd do. And when I got to about 12, 13, he was like, "No, you're going to have to sort your life out, son. If you want to make something of your life, you're going to have to knuckle down at school." And up until the age of 13, I asked this question a lot of my mates: did you know what you was going to do at sort of like the age of 12 and 13? Because it's really interesting to see how many of your friends got to where they are now. And I remember I wanted to be a vet. Not a veteran, a vet. And do you remember All Creatures Great and Small?
Yeah.
I watched one episode of that. I saw James Harriet put on that great big plastic glove, shove it up a cow's arse, and I said to my granddad, "That's not for me." so then he said, why don't we see about you joining the Army Cadets? So I said, yeah, okay. So that was it. Joined at 13, and I was hooked from the moment of putting the uniform on. And as I said, it was in the family anyway. I say, my dad was in the Welsh Guards. My mum was in the army. She was WRA, Women's Royal Army Corps.
Yeah.
And my granddad was Royal Artillery. He was second field. So it's kind of like always been in the blood. And then me and my mum, we didn't have a fantastic relationship, unfortunately. So over the years, I'd kind of end up walking out and going to my nan and granddad's. And when I got to the age of about 13, it would have been about 15, things had really gone downhill with me and my mum. So I was kind of like, I was staying at my auntie's for the time being. And the plans were is that I was going to go and move in with my grandparents. That I then got to 15, 16, and I'd made my mind up then that I definitely wanted to join the army. I'd been into the careers office. They told me all about Junior Leaders Regiment. And so I'd made my mind up with my mum, because we were argued at the time, refused to sign my army papers, refused to let me go. So my granddad then turned around and said, right, well, I'm not having that. This lad wants to join the army, and that's exactly what he's going to do. So my nan and granddad then went to see a solicitor, and we're in the process of actually adopting me. So it was pretty crazy. And then eventually my mum came round, and she was kind of, yeah, okay, no problem, I'll sign the papers. But I was just about to, like I say, move in with my grandparents. I'd sorted out a day to go and do my army entrance test in Rochdale Army Careers Office, and I was due to go there on the Monday. And actually, on the Friday before, I was still at my auntie's house, and my granddad had been sorting out my bedroom. He decorated it and everything. So the plan was that I was going to go to the Army Careers Office Monday morning. My granddad was going to take me, do my test. Fingers crossed I'd done okay, and then I was going to move in with my grandparents permanently. And I was, on the Friday, I was due to go to Army Cadets night. And for whatever reason, I don't know, it was really weird, but I just decided I didn't want to go. I think I was really excited about the fact that I was going to be moving in with my grandparents. I was going to go and do me, the army test on Monday. And and then, but I knew my granddad would end up ringing me and going, "Why have you not gone? You should go." And right about the time that I got the phone call, it was my auntie on the other end of the phone. No, it wasn't. It was the next door neighbour to my nan and granddad's house, and he said, Sheila said, "Is your auntie there?" So I said, "Yeah, I think I'll get her for you." So I got her, and she was on the phone for a bit, and then I could tell there was something not right. And then the next thing I knew, everybody, my auntie and uncle were rushing out to the hospital. My granddad had collapsed in the garden at 63, massive heart attack.
Oh,
and that was it. Yeah, he was flipping gone. So that was kind of like the first ever dealings for me of losing somebody close, an experience for the first time, really, death. And I was absolutely devastated, Frankie. It was like, my entire world, and effectively my dad as well. He just brought me up and guided me with everything. So on the Monday morning, my mum saw me and she said, "Look, we'll totally understand if you don't want to go to the Army Careers Office." I was like, "Nah, I'm going to do it." I said, "That's what my granddad would have wanted." So I did. I went. It's all really vague. I remember walking in. My mum explained to the sergeant what had happened. Even he was like, "Look, you can come back another day, son." So I said, "No." I said, "I'll do it," and I did it. And I did quite well, surprisingly. I was really shocked how well I did, because I'd only really knuckled down at school the year before.
Yeah.
And the sergeant said, "Right," he said, "Well, I needed to come back a couple of days later." And then back then they used to give you choices, didn't they? Depending on how well you'd done on your exam.
Yeah.
So he said, what do you want to do?" And I'd always had a fascination for helicopters and stuff like that. So I thought, "Oh yeah, that'd be great to get in the Army Air Corps." He said, "Well, there's a problem with that, lad." He said, "You've got about a 12-month waiting list." So I was like, "I'm not waiting that long."
That's exactly what happened with me when I joined. I wanted to be in the Air Corps.
I remember hearing, so it was you. Yeah. I remember hearing that, the story.
Yeah.
And then the second choice was there's going to be a lot of booing now, mate, but there was the RMPs. So I thought, yeah, I can go for that. And then the sergeant said, "No." He said, "Yeah, that's in 6 months." So I was like, "All right." I said, "Well, what's the earliest I can get in? What regiment?" So he was saying infantry, and my granddad always said, "Don't you dare go for any infantry regiments. You go like where you're going to get some sort of trade, or some good background for you." So that's when I asked about the artillery, and he said, "Yeah." He said, "The Royal Artillery is coming up." He says, "That's probably about 3 to 4 months waiting list." So I said, "Right, okay, I'll go for that." So I signed up for Junior Leaders Regiment Royal Artillery at Bramcote, Nuneaton, and I wasn't supposed to. I was 15. That was around about June 1992. No, it wasn't 1991. Hang on, I'm getting my dates mixed up here. It was early 1992. That was it. It was early 1992, and I'm wrong. Sorry, 91, September 1991. And then they said, "Yeah, you're probably not going to be able to get into anything until the middle of next year." And then before I knew it, I came on one day, and my nan just turned around and she said, "You better pack your bags." And I was like, "What have I done?" I said, "Have I upset you?" And she went, "No." She said, "The Army's been on the phone. You're joining next week." And my entire arse fell out. I was like, "What?" Still 15 years of age. So, and that was it. Before I knew it, there I was, June 30th, 92. I was at Bramcote, and the biggest culture shock of my entire life.
Was that the last intake at Bramcote?
Yeah, so we were the first intake. So you did your 6 months at Bramcote, and then you went to Woolwich, and you did your trade training at Woolwich. So I know a lot of junior leaders.
So junior leaders didn't do a full 12 months then?
You did, but you didn't do it all at Bramcote. So you did 6 months at Bramcote, and then you did 6 months at Woolwich. So you did your basic training, and then your trade training was over at Woolwich then.
Well, you know what? I never knew that.
Yeah, that's when I was introduced to the beautiful light gun. So yeah.
So how did you find, like, turning up with Bramcote? I want to get your hair cut and get your shot with that.
It was hilarious. I think because my family were all military, so I had a good idea. And because I'd been in the Cadets as well, and you've got ex-military in there, so I knew what was coming. And I remember when we first arrived, and they take all your kit. They give you a pair of green overalls and boots and say, right, civic kit goes in that bag and it's going down in the basement. You won't see that now for 6 weeks. And but they do that false pretense thing, don't they? So I think there was about 30 of us in our room, and then our DS staff come in introducing themselves. So the troop sergeant was Sergeant Whitbread, and then my training bombardier was Bombardier Howick, and then you had Galvin and Sledge, but they were all nice as pie. They were all kind of like in civvy clothing. You know, how you all doing? How you all finding it? And then I remembered this Irish lad, Tansy, and he said, he said, what rank are you? So Sergeant Whitbread said, well, I'm sergeant. So he went, okay. He says, well, the thing is, Sarge. As soon as I heard him say that, I was like, oh my God. And then he went, thing is, Sarge, he says, what's this about? We've got to be up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So the Sergeant Whitbread, he says, well, he said, we've got a long day tomorrow. He says, we're going to get you up. He says, we're going to do a little bit of physical. He says, and then once you've had your showers and all that, you're going to get breakfast. He said, and then we're going to go and get all your kit. He says, and that's going to take us up till about lunchtime, and then straight away we're going to be going into lessons after lunch. So this time he went, he says, I don't know if I'm happy about that. So he goes, well, what would you like? So he said, he says, I'm not bothered about breakfast. So Sergeant said, he said, I'm sorry. He says, but I'm afraid it's the Queen's breakfast. He said, there's stern rules about you not missing breakfast. So he goes, well, do we have to go running? And he says, well, it's up to you, Tansy. What do you want to do? And he said, yeah. He said, if we can miss the running, that's fine. He says, I can be dressed within 10 minutes and be at the cookhouse within, easily another 10 minutes after that. All right. He said, well, we'll come and wake you up round about 7 o'clock. Is that okay? And he was like, brilliant. And there was me and a couple of other lads just looking at each other thinking, my God, this lad's in for a shock tomorrow. And sure enough, 4 o'clock in the morning, they come in pristine, bloody, their shirts, peak hat, ammo boots, glistering, with a dustbin lid, banging the hell out of it. Yeah. Everyone jumped out of the bed, apart from Tansy. And we had bunk beds in our block. And Tansy just bolted upright. And he just shouted out to the sergeant, you can fuck right off. He said, you said we could get up at 7 o'clock. Well, I have never seen a bunk bed with a person on it travel as far as this one did. The DS staff just lifted it and launched it at the other end of the billet, and it was, oh my God, that was a nice morning shock for everybody.
No, I can imagine. Yeah, wake me up at 7 o'clock. Sorry, I get distracted then. Fucking cat's trying to annoy me.
Shouldn't give us a wave at the back.
So you moved from there to Woolwich.
Yeah.
The introduction to the light gun, you said. How was that?
Yeah, I loved it. I was one of those weird ones. I just absolutely loved it. Once you got over that culture shock, and then getting to actually train on the guns, and I know at the time then we were kind of like looking at options of what regiments we were going to join, and I'd kind of read a little bit about that there was this new, howitzer, 155 howitzer that was eventually going to be coming in. It was going through trials and everything, and they were kind of like naming a couple of the regiments that was going to be coming into, and 3RHA came up a couple of times. And I knew the FH70, so I was kind of like looking forward to it. I enjoyed the basic training, and being based down in London, I'd never been out of Manchester apart from, as a Pads brat. So I've been up in Manchester pretty much the majority of my life. And then when I came down here, one of the lads that I was training with, he was the eldest in our battery and I was the youngest. And he's called Mark James, and he ended up joining, I think it was 16 Air Defence. And he took pity on me one weekend because I didn't have enough money to get back up to Manchester. So he said, "Oh, do you want to come to my house? I live in Dartford." So I said, "Yeah, if it's not too much trouble." So that was it. So I came over to his house, and his family were lovely. Met his sister. So bearing in mind now, I'm 16 and his sister's 14. I just want to stress there is a 2-year difference, okay? Before anyone starts accusing me of paedophilia. And we just got on really well, and I remember at the end of the night, we was coming back to barracks and at Dartford train station. And I said to him, I'll tell you what, mate. I said, your family's cracking. I said, and your sister. I said, whoever ends up marrying your sister is going to be a lucky lad one day. And he was like, hey, don't get any ideas. I was like, no, I'm not talking about me. I'm just saying in general. And but we always kept in touch, me and Kelly. We always kind of, back in the days of letters, no mobile phones then. And then that was it. And then where are we now? So I joined Free RHA. They were still at Colchester then. So I joined 1993. And I think that would have been, I can't 100% remember, but I was only at Collie for 6 weeks and then we moved to Topcliffe.
Yeah.
So I think that was about the summertime, weren't it? It was about July, something like that.
Roundabout then, yeah. I mean, I joined December 92. We moved to third.
Okay.
In Colchester. And then, that was like less than 6 months later, we were moving up to Topcliffe.
Yeah. Well, I'd say I weren't there long. First person I was introduced to was Smudge, Nigel Smith. So I could have had a better person to have an introduction to. And kind of like I was in awe, because I kind of thought, he's been here ages, he'll look after me. And then found out later on he'd only been there a few months longer than me.
Yeah.
And the next person I met was Mick Shane. So I was kind of going downhill from there.
I was like the two role models.
Yeah, that was it, yeah. And then I think the third person I met was Jason Greasley. So there we go. That's where
so it was going downhill then.
That's where my liver started to take some serious impact. But yeah, and then we moved to Topcliffe, and then that's when AS90 was introduced. I think it was only a few months after that, which I think was a godsend, because after doing an exercise with FH70, Jesus Christ, I've never been so knackered in my life. I mean, you knew you'd done an exercise with that beast. And then, AS90 came in, and my memory's vague in terms of how it happened, but all of a sudden I was put down as to go up to Catterick to do my tracks licence, and then, ended up being one of the youngest drivers of this 50-ton howitzer.
Yeah.
I mean, God, it was like a dream come true. I was like, bloody, I can't believe, these people, the government, trust a 17-year-old to drive this, but absolutely.
Yeah, when you think about it like that, it is like kind of, fucking hell.
I didn't even have a car then, Frankie, and I was there around me, trusted me to drive around in this 1.5 million beast. So, I mean, it was just absolutely awesome. And then, really enjoyed my time up in Topcliffe, and then I got a letter from my mate's sister who lived down in Dartford, and she said, my brother's getting married. She goes, it'd be great if you were able to come down and make it. And at the time, I was seeing another girl, but the relationship wasn't going well. And so, and whenever she sent the letters, they would be sent to my nan's house. I mean, my nan always said she was a little bit psychic. She had the psychic ability. But really, all it was is she could smell Kelly's perfume on this card, on this letter. She said, Kelly's written to you. So anyway, I thought, I'll come down for the wedding. So I came down for the wedding. Ended up being his best man, because he was based in Gutslow then. And his best man and his sword guard couldn't get over. There was some sort of complication. And so the morning of the wedding, I jump in to have a quick shower. He knocks on the door and he says, you couldn't do me a favour, mate, could you? And I was thinking, go and pick up the flowers or something like that. He's like, can you be my best man? Fucking hell. So what can I do? What can I say? So I had no time to do a speech. I hadn't even seen the lad for like probably a good year, nearly 2 years. Anyway, everything went well, and then I thought, sod it. I absolutely fell head over heels for his sister Kelly again. And so I did I don't know if you can call it brave or stupid, but as the night was going on, I just grabbed her by the hand, went right across the dance floor in front of her dad and her mum, and took her outside and just slapped this kiss on her, and thankfully she didn't pull away. And that was it, mate. And we've been together ever since. We've been together 23. Thanks, mate. 23 years, and I live in Dartford now. Well, just on the outskirts of Dartford. So that was great. And then I think no sooner had we got together, so that was around about 1996. And then that was when we went to Northern Ireland. I think Kelly and I had only been together a couple of months then, and I was telling her, yeah, I'm going. And that was my first and only tour that I ever went on. And we went out there. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't shitting myself. I think there'd just been a massive explosion a couple of days before. I think it was Omar. There'd been a massive explosion there. So as we all know, for us, it's kind of like we couldn't wait to kind of get out there and do the job.
Yeah.
Where a lot of our civic friends look at us and I think we're completely nuts. But the best way I can explain that was Kelly's friend. I was chatting to her the other day, and I was saying to her, imagine she's a hairdresser. And I was saying, imagine you training for years and years and years to do somebody's hair, but you never actually get a customer come in. I said, that's the same for us. That's all we ever did was train. I said, and then you get the opportunity to get out there and make a difference. So yeah, as nervous as it was, it was good to finally get out and be doing our job. And then I suppose then we seemed to think we were all untouchable for the first 3 months, and then after Christmas, or certainly February, that's when we realised we weren't. So literally, as we all know, on the 12th of February '97, that's when Steve Restrick got murdered in Besbrook, and that's when the real reality kicked in of just what we were doing out there. And then my birthday was slap bang in the middle. So where Stephen Restrick got shot on or murdered on the 16th, on the 12th of February. On the 16th, we were one of the last troops to get our R&R. So, and I actually, on the night of the 15th, we've been doing an OP in Keady, and we were staying out 24 hours. So I woke up on the morning of my 16th, on the 16th of February, of my 21st birthday, with a cow licking my face, and I mean a moo cow. And I was like, oh, great. I look at it, I get this wet sensation on my forehead, and then I could smell this overpowering green grass smell. And then, woke up and there was this cow. But it was actually the day of my 21st birthday that flew home on R&R. And obviously, it was still a sad time. So I wasn't all that in the mood really for celebrating my 21st birthday. But I got home and did the best that I could celebrate. My mum cried her heart out. Anybody think I'd been away for 6 years, not 3 months, but that's what our mums do. And had some time with Kelly and all that. And then our R&R ended we flew back on the 22nd, today, 27 years ago.
Not a fucking good day, was it?
Well, that was it, mate. I got to the camp. I knew something. I got back to Topcliffe and getting ready to get on the transport, and you could tell something wasn't right in the air, but nobody was saying anything. And then as we were travelling to, it would have been Brize Norton, wouldn't it? And we would go back to Ireland, and and then there was news trickling over that we'd lost another one. And then by the time we actually landed in Belfast and got in the back of a van, and I remember it was actually Carl Britton who not really very subtle in terms of saying it, but just said, we've lost one of the lads, and said it was Coops, and that was absolutely devastating because I'd seen him the day before I went on R&R, and him and Smudge and Dave Lamb and Grease and all that, they were all planning to go to Ibiza, I think it was, Ibiza, after the tour. And they kept on ribbing me about going. I said, I can't do that, man. I'm in a new relationship. I can't just come back and then suddenly bugger off to Ibiza. So, and I remember seeing Coops, and Coops was taking a piss, and I'd nipple twisted him. And that was the last time I saw him. And so sad. So,
it's quite poignant that it's today that we're recording this as well.
It is, and I've got a glass of red. I know you're on the Pepsi tonight, but certainly drink to him.
Oh, I won't be on the Pepsi later, mate. Don't worry. No, Coops was a fucking good lad.
He's a lovely lad.
Some of the other lads. I wasn't D battery then, so I didn't really know Coops through D battery. I knew him through the tug of war team. And
of course, which I was on, and that's where I first met you, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, if you listen back to all the other podcasts, or the ones that are coming out, the ones I record, the ones coming out, there's a fucking definite theme of tug of war through my career, and usually some of them would involve Mountie,
Yes.
And a
Yeah.
lot of them will involve beer. So yeah, there's
Cookie and
win or lose. There's always the booze, as Chalky used to say. Yeah, but
chalky white though, isn't it?
Coops used to come down the house on a Sunday and have dinner and stuff like that. So, and I didn't find out about it until, I mean, obviously we were all still reading in Besbrook from Stevie Restrick, and I was working in the ops room and SIG store and doing CMVs and fucking patting about all over the place. I was at go on the morning brief or the afternoon brief. I think it was the afternoon brief, and we kind of knew something had happened, but nobody was saying anything. You know, they were keeping it quiet. And
That's why you need the red wine, mate. That
I'm
helps.
fucking filling up, mate. Because it was shit how I found out. I was in the ops room, and I'll always remember whoever was doing the fucking briefing. I think it was Major Vincent at the time, End Batteries BC, and he just blurted it out. It's like, I wouldn't say matter of factly, but as part of the fucking sit rep almost, and like that. And he just said it, and I just like, what? You know, I was shocked. And he, the briefing finished, and he left, and it was Del Hulse and Vance Worsley who sat behind me, and everybody else walked out the room, and they stayed there, and like put their hands on my shoulder, and went, "You're all right." And I was raging. I was fuming, absolutely fuming. That night, I don't know what happened that night, but I woke up the next morning with people coming into my room and going, "Nice one, fucking nice one." And I was like, "What's happening? What's happening? What happened?" And Lee Pugh come back in. So we shared a room and we were doing the same stag, like 12 on, 12 off, with each other in the ops room. And he come in, he goes, "They want you down in the ops room now." I was like, "Wow, what's happened?" He goes, "You don't fucking remember, do you?" I said, "No." So I'd gone out. I'd gone to the NAFI that night. Had a couple of your 2-can rule and all that. Had a couple of them. Ended up in one of the lads' rooms with our carry out of 2 cans from the fucking NAFI. I can't remember his room. I think it was Bob Bourne and Geordie Keller. And they had a bottle of Pachin. So I fucking drank it all, didn't I? Yes, and then the next thing I know, well, I kind of, it all came back the next day. BC's door, kicked it in, dragged him out of bed. I was going to fill him in. I was like blaming him for everything. But he calmed me down and then fucking made me roll him a fag. So we had a smoke and then sent me to bed. And then I came down the next morning and I went in the ops room and they were just fucking smirking at me, like the ops officer and that, and said, "Right, stand out there because the BC wants to see you." So right, I went and stood in the corridor and I looked down the corridor and there's the BK, John Tippett, and he was just stood there with a brew in his hand, just looking at me. And I thought he was going to rip my head off, and he just smirked. He went, "You arsehole," and then winked and walked back in the fucking room. And I was like, "Shit." But no, it was all going to kind of got a bit of a telling off at the BC, and yeah, but that was. I don't know. I don't know whether it's just because I was so fucking wound up and everything like that. And I mean, even now, I mean, you've just seen the state of us just then.
Yeah. I think it was a pressure cooker, though, mate, wasn't it? Yeah. When you think, when I think we were also, we had this belief, didn't we, that we were going to get out there unscathed, and and then to lose Stephen Restrick and to lose in the way that we did, and I know I've been very bitter as the majority of the lads were when they were all released, the terrorist release from May's prison, and you're just thinking, these guys murdered our friends, and that's a bitter pill to swallow. But looking back then, it was a pressure cooker, wasn't it? We lost Restrick, and then to lose Coops under the sad circumstances that we did there. I don't know if you know. I'm sure that you will. But that night, that Coops had died, the guys at Middletown were then out bloody all night because there was that mortar attack, mortar attack, wasn't there, on the actual base?
Yeah.
And I meet up with Lammy quite a lot, and like Remembrance Weekend, we're always down at Whitehall on parade, and I was always under the impression that it was Bert Baker that had found Coops, and I never knew it was actually Dave Lamb who was his what did we call them then? Was it troop commander?
Brick commander, yeah.
Yeah, and it was I only found that out last year, and we're chatting Dave Lamb, and the guy was in bits, and he blamed himself terribly for it, and we have to keep on kind of slapping him and telling him, listen, Coops' mind was in
nobody had a fucking inkling.
Never, mate, never. And even if you had, I mean, for a lot of years, I kind of had the attitude, and I think a lot of Coops' close mates, and even anybody that's had to deal with suicide, you have a lot of anger. You kind of like think, how could they do something so selfish? But as we get older and we get wiser, I'm actually of the belief it's probably one of the bravest things that somebody can do, and they're at such a dark moment in their life, and they honestly believe that them out of the world will make everybody else's lives better, and it's it's sad, and it's. I think, just before we start this recording, and you were saying about the other lads that you've spoken to and about mental health and everything, and that's coming out. It was nothing that was never really discussed back then.
No.
I often wonder now that lads do talk about it, and girls are talking about mental health and everything. It makes you wonder just how many lives we've all actually saved over the years.
Well, it's like what I'm saying here,
way of looking at it.
Doing these podcasts, and by the time this one comes out, all the other ones will have come out, you'll have heard them, and you'll hear different people's stories and takes on it and stuff like that. And I was always of that old school, fucking, bottle up, you fanny. Pull your socks up, fucking get on with it. And then it wasn't until, like, stuff like with Coops and much later, after I'd left the army, that two of my friends took their own lives. One, I don't really know why, because we'd lost touch and stuff like that. I just found out that he fucking stepped in front of a train. If you're going to do it in style, I suppose. And then a good mate who I knew in 39 Regiment took his own life. And the annoying thing is he was actively getting help or seeking help from the NHS, and I'm not knocking the NHS because it's a fucking hard thing. But his messages or his pleas for help, I wouldn't say they'd fell on deaf ears, but they'd been lost. They'd been put on a bit of paper somewhere, and it was over there, and nobody was looking at it. And it was too late. He had a fucking bad time, and he took his own life by hanging himself, which I think is a fucking awful way to, not so much for fucking taking your own life, but for someone finding you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was it. And it wasn't until I watched his widow, the way she reacted to it all by becoming a big spokesman for mental health and stuff like that, especially for the armed forces. She's they've started a charity. She's involved. I've seen her in the Houses of Parliament addressing MPs and stuff like that. She's been so strong, But we need to talk. I mean, I'm going to be doing a future podcast with a couple of veterans charities.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to try and help bring that out as well. It's not just sit here telling fucking funny stories, which they are, and it is, and it's a good laugh. But if one person, fucking hell, I don't know what's up with me.
You've seen my ugly mush, mate. That's what it is.
Fucking hell. I'm getting fucking emotional. I don't know what it is.
I know what you're saying. If it just changes one person's perspective on things, then you're kind of like your job's done. And I think, since running my own business, mate, and I mentioned to you before, I've got 3 or 4, I've got about 5 ex-military that are working for me, 2 of which have been diagnosed with PTSD. And I've given massive, I say me and, my company have given them massive support. But we know with these 2 individuals, it's the fact that they're back in a team environment, even though all my teams are ex-military, but they love being back in that team environment. And I've got to say that banter side as well is, we know now we have to live in a very, very careful snowflake woke world where you've got to watch your P's and Q's and all that. And my team, particularly with the ex-military guys, where I sit them down and I say, right, listen, just remember, not everybody's ex-military. So how you want to talk, however far you want to go with that dark humour, just remember, pick your audience. So when you're with us and we're in the pub, go for it. And because I think the guys and girls want to do that, and I think that kind of like helps to just release that pressure. So I totally get you, mate.
But it's like you all go to like Benidorm every year and stuff like that, don't you?
We still do, yeah. And that's killing me, man. It's absolutely killing me. I've just done last year. I'm gonna get slated, right? So I only do 2 or 3 days because the truth is, Frankie, I can't handle it anymore. No. I just cannot. My liver can't do it anymore, but my kidneys are flipping shot at. And so I am busy, but I probably put it on a little bit too much. That I've got to get back. I've got to go to meetings. So,
well, from what I understand, anyway, Smudge falls asleep on the second day and wakes up on the fourth or whatever it is.
No, I tell you, I can't. I fucked up last year because the years previously, I don't know what it is. I've always kind of like managed to be able to control my drink, and I've been fine. And I know what part of it is because the lads will drink. They will we'll meet up at 10 in the morning. We'll have a big bucket of ice and Budweiser in there. We're not going daft. We're not like like having a bottle every 20 minutes or whatever. But then come the afternoon, I've got to get to my roommate and just kind of like have a shower, so just freshen myself up, try and sober up. So when I do that, when I get back to the lads, they haven't done that. They've just carried on drinking. So by the end of it, it's normally me that's kind of getting them slowly but surely back to the hotel. And you always know when you're in rag order with the lads, because I remember one year we went and Richie, Woody, he was the first one. I went up to him and went, "You all right, mate?" And he's just whispering. He's just like, yeah. I was like, "You're not, are you, mate?" I said, "You're in whispering mode now." And he went, "Oh, no, mate." He said, "I'm fucked." And I went, "Right, I'll get you a taxi." So I got him a taxi. So one by one, I think Donna's was the next one and got him in a cab. Smudge, to his credit, mate, was kind of like the last. There was like just me and him. And then he started doing the whispering thing. So I said, "Right, do you want me to get you a cab?" And he went, "Yeah, that'd be great." So I gets him out of the bar and the cab pulls up. You got to be careful with the cab drivers because if you look too pissed, they won't take you. So I opened the door and I told the cab driver where we're staying. And I'm about to try and put Smudge in the back seat. And the only way I can describe it, Frankie, is like when you try and put a kid into a baby chair and they do that starship thing. Well, that was Smudge. He just starshiped by the door, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he went, "I'm not going, man." And I was like, "You just said you wanted a taxi," and he went, "No." I don't know where this high pitch has come from, and he went, "No, man." So I said, "Get in the fucking cab." I said, "You're making a right spectacle of yourself." And he went, "No." I went, "Right, fuck you." So I've shut the door of the cab. Cab's driven off. He's then staggered up about, I'm not joking, probably about 10 metres away. And the next thing I see, they're fucking get into a cab. You walk, bastard.
Right, we've gone off a fucking tangent there.
Yeah, sorry.
Right, so, yeah. So we were welcome tangent as well, I must admit.
Indeed.
So let's get back to Ireland then.
Yeah. So yeah. And then that was it. I think. I apart from the fatalities we had there, I really enjoyed Ireland. I had so many laughs and as we do, and it's the lads that make it happen. And so by the end of the tour, we were all trying to get that. I don't know if can you say the code words that we used to say if they were known IRA?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my job was then I was the child man. So I know for weeks after we didn't get one PAX rep. And I was absolutely gutted, and because I was just waiting for that first one where we could like rip them apart. And then I think we were back at Middletown then, and we were just coming back to the base. And then as I was just about to, we set up a VCP just outside the front, and I had the white sifter on as well, so the battery started going. So I had to go behind the wall to change the battery. Got the radio on and I'm listening, and we had the what did they call them? What was where you had an RMP police person with you? Was it Ronco or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. I can't
remember what they were called, but we had this girl, funny enough, called Kelly, who was attached with us, and she was doing the chat.
Something, wasn't it? Something like that.
What was it?
Was it Goldfinch?
No, I can't remember what it. There was a name for them, weren't there?
Yeah.
Whenever the RMPs joined you, but I can't think what the name was now. Anyway, I'm behind the wall and I'm changing the battery, and then all of a sudden comes over the radio, Pax Rep. Well, mate, you have never seen anybody put on a battery, throw that white sifter back into your burger, and come right back out. And I says, here, Kel, I says, I'll do this. And she went, no, it's fine. I says, no, please, let me. And anyway, it was this arrogant arsehole. He wasn't going to open his window, telling us that, he knew his rights, telling me that he knew my family and everything like that. And if you remember, you used to have that Fablon piece of paper, didn't you?
Yeah.
That would say that if they didn't open their window, then we were legally obliged to force entry. So I put that on the side of the window, and he was like, yeah. And then I just pulled out my maglite. I think you had to give it 30 seconds or something, and I was about to smash the window, and he shit himself. So he opened it. And he was like, right, do what you got to do. Well, we ripped his car apart. And I can't remember the rules. I think you could only do a search for no longer than 10 minutes. And I think we had this guy for about half an hour. And we took his seats out. We opened the boot. And in the boot, there was just bags and bags of mouldy bread. He was a fisherman. So we pulled all this shit out and everything like that. And I can remember CP keep on coming through on the radio. I was on Tubbs's team then, Dave Chappell's team.
Yeah.
And they were coming through saying, the SIP rep on the PAX rep, and why was it taking so long to do the VCP? And Tubbs was just like, no, everything's fine. And then he was starting to make out there was problems with the comms at that point. And then we just absolutely ripped everything out. And then they were asking the because the tower was overlooking us, can you see what's going on? The lads were making out they couldn't see anything. Anyway, eventually that was it. We fucked him about, and he was fuming. And then he was like, "Well, you're going to put my stuff back in?" So he was like, "No," I said, "It's your stuff. You put it in." And we just really ruined his day, but we ruined it even more because when he finally jumped back in the car after all the explicits that he gave us, he put his foot down on the accelerator so fast that he actually went to the other side of the road, hit the curb, and was swerving all over the place. So we reported to the RUC. They stopped him 10 minutes later and ripped his car again. That guy had a bad day, but it was good for us.
It's little wins like that, and it's I'm almost interrupting now.
No, that's fine, mate.
When we were doing the Maze tour in 1989, 88, sorry, I'm getting old, mate. One of the things we used to enjoy doing was we had rat trap VCPs. So there was guys in the QRF in the compound, and as visitors were coming out of the prison, there was a tower in the visitors' car park, and they would see who's coming out visiting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they'd say, all right, such and such, like Pax Rep is coming out, rat trap. So boom, you'd bomb out. The rows, not like 10 minutes ready to move. They were ready to move straight away. They'd bomb out the gate, and then the maze road or lane or whatever it is, that went down the side of the prison. Shoot down there, one at either end, and just wait for them coming out, and you'd stop. And you'd see, obviously, with it being a maze, you'd get all the big hitters, like Mr. Adams and fucking the other bell end. Shouldn't really say that, should I? Yeah, but
well,
whatever.
I stopped McGuinness. I didn't even know it was in. Yeah. I had no idea. Stopped him on the Monaghan Road, and his driver was all right. He was just kind of like trying to hurry things up, and I kept on looking at the passenger, thinking, I know you. Your face doesn't half look familiar. And even when I took his ID card off him, it still didn't register. Because there was quite a few McGuinnesses out there, weren't there?
Yeah.
And then,
to be fair, he's not going to be someone you're going to fuck. I mean, you'd like to, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
But no, we used to stop. As soon as we got the names that were coming out, rat traps, and I think they did Jerry Adams. He got stopped. He left. It did happen. I'm not imagining this. It did happen. He come out after visiting someone. Come out and he got stopped on that small road on 3 separate VCPs. So he got one that stopped him. He fucking the shoot off again about 20 meters up the road. There was another one waiting for him. So like little things like that can.
There wasn't much you could do, but those things that you could do, it just gave you some satisfaction.
I mean, you hear like some of the stories of, especially like from the Romeo Towers, where people were, the cameras were that good that they could point straight into people's houses. And I know there was one story going around when we were at Besbrook, and I don't know how true it is or what, but I'd love it to be true. That and one of the non-players, his wife was having an affair, and the lad zoomed in on the camera and caught it all, and then made a copy of the video, and that video was posted through his letterbox about a week later.
Shit.
And I don't know if that's just one of them modern myths of the army type of thing, but I'd love that to be true. It'd be so fucking funny.
Be great.
Anyway, sorry. Back to you.
No, that was it really, and I think there is one story I want to share with you. And I know when I was telling the lads about it, they thought I was nuts. But hopefully you'll understand my madness behind it. Well, one was in. Did you ever go to Middletown?
No.
So it was just off the border of Southern Ireland. I think it was only about 50 metres away, and but it was only a small village, and there was a pub there called the Commercial Pub. And I remember on New Year's Eve when I was up in the tower at midnight, and all the punters are coming out celebrating, and I was looking over the tower, and I could actually smell the booze, and I was thinking, I can't believe this. 20 years of age, New Year's Eve, I'm stuck in this fucking tower, and I've made a promise to myself: if there was ever peace in Ireland, I was gonna come back and I was gonna have a pint in that pub. And so in 2007, Kelly and I were celebrating our anniversary in July, and I've always had a fascination about Titanic. Ever since I was a kid, I've always had this fascination. Yeah. So the exhibition had just opened in Belfast, so Kelly had sorted out tickets to go there, and then one of my clients who I've become really good friends with lives in Dublin. So and he had invited me and Kelly to come and stay with him and his wife for the weekend. So the plan was we would do the exhibition and then drive straight down to Dublin. But I had a look at me A to Z then. It was before sat-nav. Yeah. And I thought, it's not that far, Keady and Middletown. And I didn't have any intention of stopping. I've got to say that. I just kind of thought, I'm just going to drive through, just see what it looks like. So drove through Keady. By the way, Kelly was having kittens. She was like, is it safe? And I was like, yeah, of course it is. Everything's fine. Good Friday agreement and everything like that. I said, don't worry, I'm not going to be advertising that. I'm an ex-soldier or anything. So we came through Keady, and the outer perimeter of the SF base was still there, but the main structure where we were, for the soldiers and all that, had been demolished. I think the police station was still there. And I didn't stay there long at all. I think we literally got out, had a quick picture taken by the Keady. But you could just feel there was something not right in the air. The atmosphere was, I don't know, I can't explain it. It just didn't feel right. So I got in the car and then drove off. And then Middletown was probably about half an hour away, 20 minutes, half an hour away. So we come into Middletown. And one of the things that struck out for me, where the SF base was, it was only a small one, but right opposite was a derelict house. And whenever we were sat there and we were doing registration checks on the night, we'd often kind of like to help the night go away, try and work out who used to live at that house and what it would have looked like when it was brand new. This house was about 100 years old. And when I drove through, the house was still there, the derelict house was still there, but the SF base completely gone. It was just brand new houses. For a moment, I just thought, Jesus Christ, for all the years that old house has been there, that could tell a few stories. But to my shock, the Commercial Pub was still there. I think it was called the Commercial. So I said to Cal, I said, I might pop in for a pint. And she went, really? She goes, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. I said, we'll just go in for a quick pint. I said, all I want to do is see what it looks like in there. Because we could never see it. I just want to see what it looks like. I said, we're months looking over. Anyway, we goes in. Landlord's there. What can I do for you? So I said, I'll have a pint. And Kelly, I think she was having a Bacardi and Coke and all that. And he said, what brings you here? So I said, celebrating our wedding anniversary. So we're going seeing friends down in Dublin. He went, great. I don't know what made me do it. I just blurted it out, and I just went, yeah, so there used to be a soldier here as well. And so I was at the base of Middletown, and the guy just looked at me. And I could tell Kel, if she had the superpowers of rays coming out of her eyes, and could slice me into as many pieces as possible, she would have done it there and then. And even in my head, I'm thinking, what the fuck have you said that for? So the guy went, I said, go and sit down. He says, I'll bring drinks over to you. So I sat down. As soon as I sat down, Kelly's like that. What the fuck are you playing at? And I went, it'll be fine. I said, he seems like a nice guy and all that. Next thing, he comes out at the back of the bar and he's walking towards us. He's got a blue carrier bag and he's got his hand inside the blue carrier bag. And
fucking hell.
for a split second, I thought, fuck me, this is a shotgun. I was like, what the fuck have you done? Why can't you keep that trap of yours shut? Anyway, he come over and he pulled out a bottle of champagne and he put it on the table and he went, congratulations, he says, on your anniversary. And he said, do you mind if I sit down with you? So I went, no, not at all. And he went, you know what? He says, it's really nice to speak to somebody. He said, we had nothing but respect for you guys. And then he started talking about, he said, whatever happened to tripods? I don't know if you heard about the story, the little Jack Russell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I said, yeah, and we were chatting and saying, yeah, well, tripod was brilliant. It was great for morale. We used to take her on patrols with us. When she got too tired, we'd put her in our day sack, and she even come in the helicopter with us when we were doing Eagle VCPs and all that. And what a lovely bloke, really nice bloke. And he said, you know, nobody in this village ever had any problems. You know, no matter what regiment came in. He said, we're all so thankful in terms of what you've done. And I went, oh, thank you. I said, I really appreciated the bottle of champagne. Made sure that the seal wasn't broken, just in case he's crushed some glass and put it in there or something. Anyway, so we were just finishing that drink, and then two young lads came in, and they went up to the bar. I said to Carl, I'm just going to go to Lou. So I went to Lou. When I came back, the landlord looked at me, and he just did that, waving his hand in front of his neck as if to say, you need to go. Yeah. So I said to Carl, come on, babes, we're going. And she went, oh, no, I like it here. I was like, no, we're going. And then that was it. So I don't know, you know, maybe them two would have seen me in a different light and all that. But I can say that I went in the pub, I had a pint, and that was it. So quite a nice story.
I've thought about, I want to go back to Bosnia and visit that place, and it's just building the courage up to do it. But Ireland's another place. I'd love to go back to Besbrook and Newry and just have a look at them places. You know, you look on Google Maps and Street View and stuff like that, and you know, there's like, I mean, at Besbrook, you know, the helicopter port's gone. You know, it's not there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But just to have a look around the place, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think that's the crazy thing. I mean, there's still I've done a lot of work in Belfast, and you know, there are still streets there that you know, you don't cross over. There's still pubs there. There's still loads of stuff there. I mean, with the job that I do now, working with the security services and the police and all that, we've got guys that we've worked with that have come over from the RUC. There's still stuff going on. It's not as highlighted now because of the media and everything, but on the whole, you know, it's been great going over there. And then I remember I was in Dublin on a job, and on St Patrick's Day, I was sat in an Irish bar. In fact, oh my God, yeah, it was Coops' anniversary. No, it wasn't. I just said it was Paddy's Day, didn't I? It was one of them. It was either Paddy's Day or Coops' anniversary. And there I was in an Irish bar in Dublin having a pint, thinking, this feels so real. This just, you know, back in 1996, 1997, you would never have thought that, you know, 20 years down the line you'd be doing this. So
yeah,
I think you have to just. I think everybody's got kind of like ghosts, haven't they? You know, they want to kind of probably go to a place where maybe they have had a bad experience, just to see how that's got better, and maybe, you know, just kind of help repair some guys in terms of their memories. It might have the diverse effect. It might, you know, bring back a lot of memories, bad memories. But certainly going to Middletown, it felt good to have gone there. Keady, I would definitely have not stayed there much longer. It was that. Definitely not. My English accent and orange hair. So that was the first time I thought about leaving. And the only reason I was thinking of leaving was that there was a few more exercises coming up, and I was kind of thinking I'm not seeing much of Kelly. You know, we were still quite young in a relationship. Not that Kelly ever moaned. She never complained. She never kind of like said, oh, you know, you should leave the army. She's always been supportive in everything that I do. But I first started thinking about leaving, and I applied then for the Met Police. And I got turned down.
Right.
And, which I was really shocked about, because I thought, well, I've been a reasonably good lad. I've not been caught on anything. And so I got in touch with the recruiting office. And at the time, they could tell you, but you had to, you know, you had to promise them that you wouldn't go back. And the girl said, you know, I'm really sorry, she said, but they were recruiting a more ethnic minority at the time. To which I replied, I'm ginger. Surely I could come into that bracket. And she laughed, yeah. So that I started thinking then about leaving, and it wasn't. It was. I've been asked a few times, why did you leave? And it wasn't. I loved the army, and I loved the banter, and I loved what I did, and I loved the lads. But I just I think I always had this burning ambition in me that I felt that if I was going to ever really do well in life, it wasn't going to be in the army. I would have to start thinking about when I want to leave. And then I got turned down by the Met Police, and I thought, sorry, I can't be arsed. So just hung in there. And then the next thing was that the regiment was moving to Hona, and I really didn't want to move to Hona, just purely because, like I say, with my then now fiance, and so I was trying to see if I could get a posting, stay in the UK. Which I did, and ironically, it was Burbright, where I grew up as a bit of a pads brat there. So when the regiment moved in '98 to Hona, I moved straight down to Burbright as part of the RP staff, and then I made the decision then that I was going to sign off. So I did, and everything was hunky dory for about a year. And I don't know if you knew this, I wanted to live out as well. Because what I wanted to do was to try and make some sort of smooth transition between army and civilian life. So I thought, if I can move out, me and Kel get a flat, which we did, and then try and do some like civvy jobs as well, just so that I could try and make that transition a bit easier. And to apply, when you apply to live out, I don't know if you ever had to do it. But at the time, it could be no more than 60 miles away from camp. And Dartford to Purbright's 59 miles. So it was just in there. I was like, oh, thank God for that. So did that. And then a year into it, I was our RSM that was there. Can't for the life of me remember his name, and I should do. But he was X-29 Commando. Not X-29, he was serving 29 Commando. Complete and utter nutter of a guy. Nobody liked him. And the next thing I know is my Provost Sergeant, Bob Bricknell, who I got on really well with, Grenadier Guards. And he's the type of guy that was like, look, when there's no one around, call me Bob. When there is, call me Sergeant. I was like, yep, no problem. So I got on really well with him. And then like I said, about 12 months down the line, he says, oh, the RSM wants to see you. So goes into his office. And he said, we're looking at promoting you to Bombardier. So I'm kind of looking at him and thinking, well, that's really nice. He says, but I've signed off, sir. And he went, yeah, I know you have. He says, but I think you're making a terrible mistake. So I said, okay. I said, I really appreciate what you're saying, but with the utmost respect, sir, I'm definitely going to be leaving. No, you're not. I'm like, okay, now, is he not? Is he deaf? But then he said, you're not. He says, and actually, he said, you're down for the Bombardier leadership course with 29 Commando. Yeah, and my entire, I think that was the second time my entire arse fell out again, because I was like, fucking 29 Commando. So, and I think their main base is it Portsmouth?
Plymouth.
Anyway, Plymouth.
Yeah,
I know it's not beginning with P. So yeah, so I had to go all the way down to Plymouth with all my kit. Not happy, really pissed off, and Bob Brignall, my Provost Sergeant, is like, just do it. And I said, yeah, but I'm getting out. I am really getting out. I know I'm getting out. And he was like, yeah, well, you might change your mind. I went, I won't. I promise you, I won't. So anyway, went all the way down to Plymouth. I was the only outside unit, which really fucking helped. And then the training officer and the sergeant major that was there, he's got everybody in this room, and he's right, before we start, is there anybody here who thinks they shouldn't be here? So about 5 hands went up, including mine. And he's going for these guys. What's your reason? I'm not ready, sir. Put your hand down. What's your reason? Sir, I think I need another year. Put your fucking hand down. What's your reason? I said, and then he looked at me and he went, who the fuck are you? So I said, lads from Lee Horton, sir. It's a free RHA. I said, but I'm stationed at Purbright. And he went, what the fuck are you doing here? So I said, so I'm feeling the love at this point. So I says, I've been sent by my RSM to do Bombardier leadership course. And he goes, right, well, why have you got your hand up? I said, well, I've signed off, sir. I said, I've only got 6 months to go. And he went, what fucking muppet sent you down here? So, like I said, I can't remember his name, and I generally cannot remember his name. And he went, right, fuck off. So I went, all right. Well, that was easy. So I jumped back in my car, driving back up, rang Kel and said, oh, I'm off the course, it's great. So she went, is there going to be repercussions? So I went, not too sure. And then Bob Brigno rang me up, my provost sergeant, and he went, what the fuck have you done? So I said, he asked me if I wanted to do the course, Bob. I said, don't call me Bob. I was like, oh, fucking hell, here we go. So I said, okay. I said, Sergeant, I told him that I didn't want to do the course. I'm out in 6 months. So he said, right, well, when you get up here, get into your twos straight away. So I was like, fuck. So I got up there. Now, bearing in mind, I'm RP staff, so we've been beasting recruits left, right and centre. And I was, I don't know if you've been to Purbright, but you've got the long road up to HQ. And I was frog marched in my twos all the way up to HQ. Slammed in my heels in front of the RSM, and he was like, what the fuck are you doing? So I said, sir, with the utmost respect, I told you I don't want to do it. And he went, right. He said, well, you got two choices. You either get your ass back down there or you're out to Germany. I was like, you fucker. So I was like, right, okay. So that was it. And then I had to make my way to Oakhampton. Have you ever been there? Fucking evil place, Frankie. Jesus Christ. The place is surrounded by peat bog. And anyway, so that was it. I had no choice. So I had to do the course. I barely got through it. I mean, those guys, top respect to them, man, because they run everywhere. I mean, they run to the cookhouse, they run to the bog, they run to the flipping naffy, they run everywhere. And the first couple of weeks, I just couldn't keep up. I was dying. But anyway, eventually got through the course, come back, went in front of the RSM, give me a pat on the shoulder. Well done. He says, the adjutant's ready to promote you. I turned around to him and I said, sir, sorry. I said, I'm staying signed off. And he just looked at me and went, fair enough. And like, I could have fucking twatted him and then, I just thought, you fucking arsehole, And he was like, yeah, fair enough. I was like, oh dear. So anyway, that was it. And I literally, I'd always had the dream of a military wedding ever since I was a kid. And so me and Kelly got married July 29th, 2000. And Smudge and the lads came over from Germany to be my sword. Well, Smudge was my best man. And then the rest of the lads come over as my sword guard. And then literally a month later, that was me. I was out. And I started working at a hotel in London called the Churchill as a security officer. Absolutely hated it. And I'd been doing event security work for other companies in that 2 years anyway. So as I said, I was doing a bit of civvy work within doing the military side. And it was horrible. I absolutely hated that job. The way some people are treated was disgusting, but kept my head down. And then that was when I met my first ever celebrity, which was Dolly Parton. So, what a lovely lady, man. She was she was staying in the presidential suite, and I had to escort her to the lift with her husband, who's about 6'8", big Texan, and he's got the Stetson on, and then open the presidential suite for her. What a lovely woman, really down to earth. And how long have you been working here? And what did you do before? And the reason I'm telling you this story is I've been fortunate enough now over the years to work with quite a few celebrities. Some are great, some are not so great, but it's the ones that kind of have the decency to actually listen to you and remember. And with her, she was lovely, because next day was Valentine's Day, and she said, "Oh, have you got any plans?" And I jokingly said, "Mrs. Parton, I said, your husband's here. You shouldn't be asking me on a date," which he found hilarious. I said, "No." I said, "I'm newly married." I said, "I'm going to be cooking a meal for my wife." I said, "I'm going to do steak," and then that was it. And then Valentine's Day, I wasn't in work. The day after that, I was back in, and I was by the Churchill bar, and she come walking by with her husband and security, and she just remembered my name straight away. She went, "Lee, come over, shook my hand. How are you?" So I said, "I'm really well, Miss Parton. How are you?" And she went, "Oh, I'm lovely." She goes, "How's your lovely wife, Kelly? And did you cook a steak?" And I was like, wow, you really actually did listen to everything I was saying. So that was my first kind of taste of working with celebrities. And then sorry, I'm jumping the gun a little bit. For my resettlement course, when I left the army, I did close protection bodyguarding. And it wasn't really a recognised course back then. You got a certificate. The course was all right.
Yeah.
And the guy that trained me, utmost respect for him. He was ex-SF guy called Jim Devaney. I think he's written a few books. But that was, really it was kind of like me just trying to make a name for myself in London and hope that I was going to get a big break at some point. And then 18 months into the hotel, there was an ex-sergeant major that I'd got to know on the civvy circuit, and he worked for the US Embassy. He was a surveillance officer down at Grosvenor Square, and he just rang me up out of the blue, and he said, "Mate," he says, "there's a job going here at the embassy. Would you be interested?" I didn't even let him finish. I went, "I'll have it." So he said, "All right, so you got to come down for an interview." He said, "I'm not staying." He says, "I've got a job out in Dubai." So I went, "Oh," I said, "Thank you so much." So went down to have the interview, and there I was. Lo and behold, a week later, I was working for the US State Department as a surveillance officer for the embassy, and this is a year after 9/11, so you can imagine security was absolutely sky high. And so that's kind of like where I thought my career was going for the surveillance side of stuff. And then I got another call out of the blue. It was only for a weekend work. And it was a company run by a really good friend of mine called Danny Doyle. And he said, "I need a CP driver to look after a family that's coming in from the Middle East." And he said his wife is pregnant, and their first child was born in Liverpool because he was at Liverpool University at the time. And he always said that his second child he would want born in Liverpool. So he was bringing his wife all the way over to Liverpool to have this baby. Nuts, mate. Absolutely nuts. So I said, "Yeah, I'm off the weekend. I can do that." So met the lad I was working with, drove up to Liverpool, met the family. And up until that point, we weren't told who it was. There was a lot of secrecy. And then it turned out it was one of Gaddafi's sons, and he was the sports minister. Apparently, and I do quotes here, he was the only one that didn't torture anybody. But he was, we was looking after him and his wife for a couple of days. So they turned up with 3 suitcases, and there was him, his wife, their young child, and a nanny. And there was just 2 of us looking after them. And they have a fascination with pound shops. No one ever liked pound shops. So I don't know if you've ever seen that sketch with Catherine Tater's nan, when she goes into the pound shop and saying to her grandson, "How much is this?" And he goes, "It's £1." Well, I had the same situation with them. It was like, "How much is this tennis racket?" I went, "It's £1, sir." "Okay. And this mirror?" "That's £1. So everything in here, £1. They left 2 days later. They came with 3 suitcases. They left 2 days later with 14 suitcases of just crap. That was all £1. But when they take that back, their family, I think they've spent thousands on them. So they kind of like they get all these gifts from the UK and everything, and the bee's knees. So working, carried on working at the US Embassy, and then that's when I really kind of started thinking about setting up my own company, then security company, and it wasn't because I had an attitude that I thought I could do better than anybody else. I didn't particularly like how guys and girls were treated staff wise. I thought a lot of them were just kind of stuck in a position for hours on end and not really looked after. So I didn't particularly like how some companies done that, and I didn't like how some of them actually talked a load of shit about what they could do, and clearly they had guys and girls that didn't have that level of training. So I thought, I fancy having a go myself. So whilst I was still working at the US Embassy, I set up Athena. And this was my 3rd attempt, actually, because I tried to set up with a couple of other people beforehand. Didn't really work. So my 3rd attempt was like, right, I'm going to have a go on my own. And so I set that up April 6, 2006. And we were in the Yellow Pages. And the reason I chose Athena was, one, I had to think of a company that began with A, because that was still the days of Yellow Pages.
Yellow Pages, yeah.
Yeah. And then the girl that was working with me at the time, she was the data analyst, and she was ex intelligence corps, and she now works for me full time. And she was really into her Greek mythology, and I was like, I'm trying to think of a name, and then she went, well, why don't you name it Athena? And I was like, well, who's that? And she went, she's the Greek goddess of protection, looks after the children. And I went, oh no, I like that one. So that's where the Athena name came up. And then no sooner had I set that up, then there came a situation within the embassy that I had to leave, where we were just clashing with other members of the team. There was two of us. I was a team leader of one. There was another good guy called Dave Woods, and we just like things being done properly, professionally. And then you had another part of the team that were kind of, when they're supposed to be doing surveillance, and they were off to the pub, and they were being seen by some of the American staff, and nothing was ever getting done about it. And we were getting annoyed about it. It was getting vocal. It'd only been 2 years since 9/11. Afghan had all kicked off, and it just became to a point that I kind of had to leave. So I left, and then lo and behold, I had a phone call from a guy called Cliff Dixon, another good friend who was running a company, and he said, I've got a job at Trinity Buoy Wharf. He said, we've got a celebrity that's going to do a press release. He said, but I need help. He said, we're going to have a lot of press there. So I said, yeah, okay, no worries. So I said, who is it? And he went, he said, I'll tell you when you get here. So I went, okay. So I gets there, and sure enough, gets to the building, all the barriers are there. And I said, you're going to tell me who it is? And he said, just walk into that reception area, he says, and then you can guess. And he knew I was a Manchester United fan. I've always been a Manchester United fan. My nan made sure I was a Manchester United fan. She already had the baby suit with the Manchester United badge as soon as I was born. So, and when I walked in, I just seen this blimp with a pair of football boots in number 7 on the back, and then looked up and seen the shirts and all that, and I come out and I went, is this Beckham, David Beckham? And he went, yeah. And I went, oh, fucking hell, mate, cheers. And he went, yeah. He said, I thought he'd like it. So that was it. And then anyway, the press turned up, keeping them back, and then David Beckham turns up with his security, and his security guy at the time was a man called Stevie Darts. And there's an absolute dead ringer for David Hasselhoff. I was waiting for the Baywatch music to follow him as he walked in. And as soon as he walked in, David went straight into a room. And I could see he was busy, but when he wasn't busy, I went up to him and I said, look, just want to introduce myself. My name's Lee. If you need anything, any help, need a coffee, anything like that, give me a shout. And he went, I really appreciate that, mate. Thanks. And that was it. And then probably about half an hour later, David then came out into the main press room, and that's when he set up his football academy, which was just the other side of the O2. And he was saying he was opening this academy for the kids and everything like that. So that all went well, and then he went back and he was going into a private room then to have separate interviews with other radio stations and media. And then Stevie Darts come over to me, so he goes, so what's your background, mate? So I said, well, he said, and please don't tell me you're XSF. So I said, well, I'll put my black strip back in my pocket, shall I? So I said, no. I said, I'm Royal Horse Artillery. I said, been out 2 years, working for the US Embassy. And he went, all right. He said, but you're CP. So I said, yeah. And he went, what experience have you got? I said, I've only looked after one person. I said, but I'll tell you won't believe me. So I told you I was Gaddafi's son. And he went, all right. So he said, are you looking for work? So I said, yeah. I said, I'm always looking for work. And he said, right. He said, well, give me a number. And he said, I'll give you a ring in a couple of weeks' time. So I went, oh, I really appreciate that. So I handed my number over to him. That was it. Got home and told Kelly about it. And Kelly was, oh, this is brilliant, because everybody within CP, you have your goals. And when we were training, the second Iraq War kicked off then. So a lot of guys were going over to Iraq with control risks. And I think there was about 15 students on my course, and 14 all answered the same when Jim Devaney said, what's your goal? Where do you want to go? I want to go to Iraq. And then when he got to me, he said, where do you want to go? And I said, I want to be on David Beckham's team. And everybody laughed, and he said, and he told everyone off. He says, "Don't laugh." He says, "As long as somebody has got a dream, you never know what's going to happen." So now, fast forward, and I've come home and I've told Kelly, and she went, "Oh, that's great." And I went, "Yeah." I said, "Nothing's going to happen." I said, He was really nice, Stevie Darts." I said, "But yeah, I can't see anything happening." And then I was doing chauffeuring work then, and a bit of security work. And about 2 weeks later, I've just picked up a client from Heathrow, and I'm taking her into Kensington. And as I've dropped her off at the hotel, she's asked me to wait because she wants to go over to, I don't know, Oxford Street or something like that. So I said, yeah. And within that time, my mobile phone rings and I answer it. And it's the Stevie Darts bloke. And he went, "You busy tomorrow?" And I had bookings. I had airport bookings. And I went, "No." Right. He said, "Look, opportunity for you, mate." He said, "The kids are going watching Winnie the Pooh." He said, "We need a driver. And Victoria's mum's going to be going." So I said, "Oh, right, okay." So I said, "Yeah, no, I can do that." So he went, "Great, right." And they were living in Sawbridgeworth then, in Harlow. So he said, "You can be here at such, whatever time." So I said, "Yeah, no worries." So I put the phone down. I was like, "Fucking hell!" I couldn't believe it. I was in a bit of shock. And then next thing, the clients got in the car, and she goes, "You all right, Lee?" And I went, I said, "I've got to tell somebody." I said, "You're the first person I'm going to tell." I said, "I've just had a phone call." I said, "I'm working for David Beckham's family tomorrow." And she went, "Wow, good on you." So I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm in shock." Anyway, so I took her to Oxford Street. Luckily, the guy I was working for, I didn't lie to him. I rang up and I went, "Mate, I've had an amazing opportunity come. Is there any chance you can get cover for me tomorrow?" And he went, "Yeah, don't worry about it, Lee. You go for it." So so that was it. So I went up to Sawbridgeworth the next day, bricking it. And then that's when I met Victoria for the first time. She had her hair in rollers, come out, which seemed a bit surreal, with her mum, Jackie, and just shook my hand, said, "Oh, nice to meet you." And then that, it was Brooklyn and Romeo then, so they were in the back of the car, and then we took them to the show, and I got the third degree from her mum. Every question you could think of, she was asking. How long I've been with my wife, what my background was, what my future ambitions were. And then later on, I found out, which I understand, I totally get it. And that was, she will ask you a set of questions. And then about 6 months down the line, if you've lasted that long, Victoria will ask you the same questions. And if your answers differ from any way, they'll know you're wrong. Yeah, it's really clever, man. Very, very clever. So luckily I passed the test. And so I did ad hoc work for them for about a year and a half. And then in between that, I'd set up Athena. But I'd set up Athena before that. But all I had was a hotel in Maidstone that we used to do weekend security for, which barely covered my public and liability insurance. I wasn't making any money from it. And then a position came up on the full-time team out in Madrid. So I got the phone call. Kelly was with me, and they were like, "When can you get out here?" So I was like, "When do you need me?" So Kelly was very understanding, just. And then that was it. And then I was out in Madrid for a year and a half, right up until the point of where LA Galaxy bought him. And LA Galaxy were paying for their security, their entire security out in LA. By then, Athena had picked up. We had a few new clients, including I had a footballer and his family with a kidnap threat against them. So that was becoming a full-time operation with me supplying guards at the house and CPOs. So I left. It was good for me to leave when I did. And then the rest is really with Athena, and here we are now, 18 years later, and still going strong. Touch wood. Yeah,
that's some time, that, isn't it?
It is, mate. And I keep pinching myself because it's. I never take it for granted, and I've been really fortunate. I don't believe in the word luck. I think we all take paths, and believe me, mate, I've taken some bloody wrong paths. Yeah. And God knows how I've ended up. Yeah, we all have, mate. Yeah, I'm really fortunate. I'm lucky to be in the position that I'm in, and the team that I've got. We're not a huge company, but we've got some massive, really big clients and that. And but without a doubt, mate, I've said this many times. If it hadn't been for my time in the army, I would never have got to this, and I really do mean it. There's a lot that I learned in the army. I had a lot of good mentors, good instructors, good people that were there for advice, and I thank them all, from bombardiers, sergeants, and sergeant majors and guys. I mean, my biggest, really, I was a massive fan of Cliffy Coggins. He was my first troop sergeant, and he kind of like took me under his wing when I first came. He was fair, I got my fair few bollockings, mate, and he wasn't too shy to send me up to oh God, my mind's gone blank. Cheryl, yeah, he was our BSM stacker. My first BSM, yeah. But even with him, I mean, I see him every year down at Remembrance Weekend, and I can't help it. I keep calling him sir, and he went, "It's Paul. Stop calling me sir." And I went, "Sorry, sir." It's a really bad habit to get out of. Yeah, but yeah, without a doubt,
I want to speak to one here, and I don't know. I'm trying to get some. There's a couple of people I want to get on it, and I'm thinking, it would feel weird calling them by their name instead of
yeah, it is.
It would feel weird.
But it's funny because I think I've seen him for the past 10 years now, and last year was the first time that I actually went, "You're right, Paul," but it didn't feel right. I was waiting for him to roll his dice the moment I said it. You call him Paul. How many extras do you want?
It sounds like everything's going well for you, mate, and I'm so proud of you and glad of it.
Thanks, mate. Thanks.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's it's not easy running a business, especially right with COVID and Brexit, mate, was a massive thing for us. I mean, I'm amazed that we survived Brexit, because I have a lot of. I don't care about nationalities. I don't care about colour of skin. I don't care about religion. All I want is guys and girls that are going to do a job. I do want them to speak English, because they're representing me. They're representing my company. If they can't speak to my clients or communicate well in a team, then we're going to have problems. And I've got an amazing team. I really have, and they're not all ex-military. I always said that when I set up, I didn't want ex-military, just solely ex-military, because it can be a hindrance sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a lad who's working for me now. He was a sergeant major. He did 30 years, and then he was out in Syria for 3 or 4 years, and he's doing really well now. But when he first joined us, when I told you about, you've got to have that chat with him, telling them about picking their audience, and you can't have that soldier mentality all the time. We've got young kids that have joined us now, 17, 18, that we've seen the potential in, but you've still got to tread carefully. Don't get me wrong, Frankie. I don't suffer fools easily, and I don't go for this
wokeness.
Yeah, this woke, the snowflake type of thing. I love doing a thing where I get staffing on a meeting and they have to sign a document. It's called a without prejudice meeting. And that basically means you can say anything you want. It's not recorded, it's not written down, and everyone gets to speak their mind. And I like that. But at the same time, like I say, I've got the military guy of 30 years there, and every so often we just have to rein him in. And you can't talk like that, mate. Yeah, but he isn't. No, it doesn't matter what you're thinking. That's what you've got to do. That thought process, don't let it get down here to the jaw. Keep it up there.
Yeah, I mean, as we spoke about before we started this, I've suffered that a few times.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just that it's the old thing, isn't it? Oh, the civvies don't know. It's their fault, and it's not. It's their world, and we have to kind of fit into it, I suppose.
And I think, one of the biggest compliments I can give to my military career and the people that I've met down the line is I love Remembrance Weekend. I love going to Benidorm with the lads and all that, because I get to be me. I don't want to sound, I don't know how it sounds. I don't want to sound ungrateful or everything like that, but I am. I run my company, and I have to be very careful in terms of what I say and how I say it, and as any business person does. And particularly in the line of work that we do, we have to be really, really careful. But when I go down the Remembrance Weekend and meet up with the lads and girls, and we do the Benidorm. I can beat me. And last year, I was me. Within half an hour of drinking, I was more pissed than anybody. There's a picture of me hugging a palm tree. I don't know what the hell happened. I think I thought, fuck it, let's just go for it. I don't care. And I just love being in that company. I love, meeting up with you, Frankie. I mean, I don't think I'd seen you since, well, probably 98 would have been the last time.
Yeah, been about then, yeah.
On probably the tug of war side of things.
Yeah.
But I'm always grateful for it, mate. And I think I'm a little bit more fortunate. I know you chatted about the mental health side of things, and don't worry, I've had my wobbles. I mean, my mum sadly passed when I was 30. She had a brain aneurysm and just dropped. And at the time, I was training to climb Kilimanjaro. I was raising money for Help for Heroes, and kind of had this attitude. My mum died 6 weeks before I did that, and sadly, we weren't talking. We'd fallen out. But I thought I could climb to the top of Kilimanjaro. There was a lad there that I got to know really well. He was ex-guards. We'll open a can of Foster's at the top and drink it, and I'll raise the can to my mum. Little did I know how fucking cold it was going to be up there, and the can of Foster's was frozen solid. couldn't even get a drip out of it. But naively, mate, I thought that after that I would be fine, and I wasn't. For 2 years, I was in a really, really bad place, and me and Kelly nearly divorced. I mean, a poor girl, I dragged her through it. Not anything physical violence, but I was just, my head was in a mess. But I came out the other side of it. I came out of it because I've got an amazing wife, but I've got amazing, mates, army mates, and I haven't really, I've never had that bondship with any civvy friends or anything like that. There's nothing that comes anywhere close to the the lads.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I don't know. This might sound a bit trite or whatever, but I don't think you can have a bond like that unless you've grown up with someone.
Yeah.
So if you've grown up with someone from being at school and stuff like that, and then and you've been together for years and years and years, you've got that type of bond. You've got that brotherly bond.
Yeah.
In the army, or in any type of the military, it doesn't just be the army. Do we include the RAF? Yeah, we have to. You have that bond. Even if it's like, I mean, Christ, we turned this on, freaking hell, 2 hours ago. And it was as if we were still stood around the back of the hangar where we've just come off the rope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no 30 years or whatever it is, they've just disappeared.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we didn't work together. It was just really, we knew each other from the tug of war team, really.
Yeah.
But we were in the same regiment, we know the same people. You've got that bond. And it is a bond. As much as I didn't think it was, because like I was saying to you earlier, I hadn't spoke to anyone for like 10 years. Like, literally, hadn't. Wasn't interested in it. Didn't want to go to reunions or anything like that. I even stopped going to remembrance parades every year. I went through a few of them, and I thought, well, I'm not bothered. It doesn't bother me. I do my remembrance in my own head. I'd stopped going to them. I'd stopped keeping in touch with people. But doing this is fucking changed my mind. It's changed my outlook on life. And I've only been doing it 7 weeks. You know what I mean?
Well, I told you at the beginning as well, Frankie. I take my hat off to you, mate, because I think it's amazing what you're doing. You're bringing people that was probably having the same thought process as you. You're bringing them back together. And I think when I was listening to your podcast, you can't help it. I'm starting to think back and go, oh, crikey, when did I join? And how did I feel when I joined the army? And it just all come flooding back. And then to be able to, share that, have a chat with you after many, many years. And I know that this is exactly how we are when we do meet up with the lads and girls at Remembrance Weekend. It's just, yourself, you can have a conversation about something 10 years, not see each other, and then pick up right where you left off on that same conversation. And I truly believe that the best medicine for certainly, veterans and all that is meeting up with the guys and girls that you know best. And you don't have to put is it a facade? Do you say that? I don't need to put on a different face, if that makes any sense. With work, I do. With my clients, I do. I have to be business Lee. But then to just be able to chill out, relax. And as much as I made a prat of myself in Benidorm last year, I know that's
You'll
going
do
to
it
be
again.
another story. Yeah, that's it. It's another story, and I don't care exactly. It was kind of like you couldn't be with a better bunch of people, but credit to you, mate, in doing this. I think it's an amazing thing that you're doing.
Thank you.
And keep going with
I'll
it.
do my best. I might have run out of people, but I'll just do ones of my own. Yeah, I won't do video ones because nobody wants to watch me. Anyway, right. So I think we've come to the end of it. It's been great catching up with you. I'm so glad that everything's worked out for you.
Thanks,
And
man.
you seem really happy, and it's brilliant.
Try.
Yeah, right. So
and good to see you as well, mate.
I'll
Thanks
finish
again.
the recording now. I didn't mean to talk over you then, sorry. I'll have to cut that.